Wanted to talk to you on video about the upcoming Toronto Real Estate Board general meeting. Toronto Real Estate Board has two annual meetings. So it's one they divided into two: in the spring, which is the election meeting, and the fall, which is where they look at the auditors and they look at all kinds of stuff. So this time, in addition to a big introduction to a panel of politics and one thing and another, they're going to be introducing a modernization plan of the structure of the governance system. Now, if you don't know a lot about the governance system, you probably, it was a long time since you studied the bylaws of the Toronto Real Estate Board. And you know the MLS rules because you deal with the MLSL rules all the time. You don't really know about the bylaws. So the Toronto Real Estate Board has a plan, and as part of the agenda, way at the end, they're going to have input on things of interest to members. Now, before I tell you about the modernization plan, I'm going to tell you the way it is right now. The board is run by two groups. You got the permanent staff, and you got the board of directors. Now, the permanent staff is, well, it's employees. They're salaried. I'm sure they got benefits, and I'm sure they got pension plan and everything like that. So they're not at all like you. And then the board of directors is 16 people who are members, and they are registrants, and some of them are brokers of record, and some of them are managers, and some of them have interests in firms, and some of them have no interest in firms. Some of them just, you know, are buy and sell realtors like you and me. So this, to me, is the part of the board that we should be interested in, because our interest will be most often represented by people who are just like us. These guys, they're going to carry it out. Yes, they'll do the tasks, but we're not in the human resources department. We're not trying to say they're doing their job good, bad, or indifferent. That's up to these guys. Okay, they're in charge. They're the board of directors. So we got the membership of 52, 55, 58,000 salespeople. And everybody can vote, if and everybody can run if you meet the qualifications. And so we have an election, and we get certain people elected. Now, the board of directors is comprised of directors at large. Currently 5, they want to expand it to 5 people who are elected by everybody, and then there's 4 regional directors that can only be brokers of record, and another 4 that can only be not brokers of record. So you're members of a firm, or you own the firm. So east, west, central, and north. And if you work in each one of those regions, you vote for your local representative. So the idea has begun to be expressed that the association's bylaws somewhere in the future by Ontario government, they're going to say you can't have different classes of members, and so they're saying that sometime in the future we're going to have to get rid of these 2 classes, and sometimes in the future we can't have this east, west, north, south, and so we should get rid of it now. You know, this is sort of like saying, let's react to the future. So I don't accept that argument. They're going to propose it. So what's happening is that they say, okay, let's get rid of 4 of these 8 regional positions and only have 4. And that'll reduce the size of the board of directors by 4. And somehow that's good. That as the membership swells, we should have fewer people that are representing us. But that's the idea. And then to beef up the board again and make it stronger, they want to have 2 outsiders, not registrants, not members of the board, not, appointed by some, you know, very elegant system, to also become outside directors of the board that they don't want to have members to be on, because I don't know why. So that's part 2. Bringing in outside directors. Now, if they bring in outside directors, they're going to have to pay them. And if they're going to pay the outside directors, that means they're probably going to have to pay the inside directors, and that means they're going to have to pay their president-elect and the president and the past president a little bit more too. So it's a chain of events. Now, I say, how did this all begin? And apparently 2-3 years ago, they brought up these same ideas as discussion points, and it was not exactly voted down, but it was talked down at the meeting. But here it comes again. So read this. Look, number one, what am I talking about? Why am I doing this? Go on to the notice pages and look up this stuff about the upcoming meeting and read what they've had to say about the modernization plan. That's number one. What I want you to do is become aware of the issues, and I'm going to be not surprised if you are not aware. So I'm doing this so you are aware of them. Now, the next thing is, do you support the changes they're proposing? They have a video, and they've got the president and the president-elect having a video of how they say, what's the word they use? Indifferent, impartial. Oh, they have some fabulous word of how the board is neutral on whether these changes are good or bad, except it affects the board. So the third one that I didn't mention is, right now, the membership every spring votes for like half the members of the board, because it rotates in and out, 2-year term. And they vote for the president-elect, the person who will serve for the next year as the warm-up president. And then after that, the warm-up will be the president, and then after that will be the past president. So that if you get into it, you're elected by the members for really a 3-year term, 3-phase term. Warm-up, where you're the spokesman and you're the everything, and then whether you're the senior, institutional memory and fallback source of knowledge and strength is the past president. So right now we pick the president-elect by election. Everybody votes, and there's rules. You have to have been on the board for a while, and you have to have been to get on the board and so other stuff. So it's not just any old person. You can't just come from the blue and say, I'm going to be president-elect and I don't like what you're doing. So there's ways that you have to work your way through the system. But now they want to stop that, and they want to say, okay, we'll elect one more director at large. So instead of 5, there'll be 6, and then we'll go away on our strategic cruise, or whatever they call the first thing in July. And at that meeting, we'll pick from within our group the regionals that are left and the directors that are elected the next year's president-elect. So one of those people will become the president-elect, and the president, but it'll be picked from this group. So nobody can sort of come in from, well, they already had to be a director, and they already had to serve on, anyway, so that's what they say. It's the way the CREA does it, and the way the RIA does it, and to me, those are the 2 greatest reasons to not do it. However, that's just my opinion. Okay, so there's the things. They want to shrink the number of directors, bring in outsiders, and eliminate the election by everybody of the president-elect. Now, one of the things they're going to say is, for the last 2 years, the nominations have not been fully filled, and so when we've had elections, there's actually been 2 positions on the board of directors not filled in the current year and in the previous year. And you have to scratch your head and say, why? Because I'm going to add this to the agenda. There's actually a nominating committee bylaw that says if there's not sufficient number nominated, then they shall create a nominating committee, and that nominating committee has got to bring forward names so there'll be a full slate. So there's got to be a reason why somebody decided to defy the bylaws. And then because they defied the bylaws, why there was a shortfall in the number of members, and then they did it again, and then they're using that as a justification for why the board operates more smoothly with a diminished number. Now, I'm also going to bring up the serve on 2 committees in the last 10 years as a prerequisite for being nominated. Now, my big objection to this is that it's hard to get on a committee. I got a whole stack of letters where they said, thank you very much for applying, but no thanks. I used to be on committees in the 80s. I was in the committees all the time. I was on the bylaw, MLS rule rewrite, and when we were bringing in buyer brokerage, I was on the whole thing with Bill Johnston and Josie Rhodes. Like, I've been involved in it. But I was away with it for a long time until they brought in this thing. And I ran, actually, in 2010 or 2011, 12 or something. I ran in and became third in the central directorate, but I could just go. I didn't have to have any committee service. I could just be mad or upset or incensed and put my name in and get 2 guys to sign and run a campaign, and either I got elected or I didn't. And that's the whole issue. You have to be elected. So this prerequisite of being in 2 committees in the last 10 years. First they had it 5 years. I fought for it. I'm on the committee that's doing all this stuff. I couldn't say anything about this in opposition until they published it, because it was confidentiality. Anyway, so this is running kind of long. Okay, I'm going to wind her up. So we got to get rid of that 2 and 10 bylaw. It's impossible to get on a committee, so that means that certain members cannot. Like, have you been on 2 committees in the last 10 years? So you can't run for a director. Whether you want to or not, you can't. You're prohibited. And then finally, they put in something about term limits, where you can only be on the board for 8 years, and if you're ever a past president, you can never be the president again, which, okay, you can never be the president, but what if there's sort of a gone the wrong way bunch of drones that have become the directors, and they're just doing what seems to be, remember we talked about these 2 masters? What if the electeds seem to be doing what the employees want and serving the employees' agenda more than the members? That could never happen, could it? But one of the people who would know the most about it would be a past president who would say, hey, this has gotten out of hand. Like, I remember Dave Pierce. Dave Pierce kept saying, why do you keep on building in these things to the membership dues? I buy it as a special treat for my agents in my company, and now you bring it up for everybody and level the playing field. Like, that's not what the board's job is. Just keep everything, keep in your lane. Is what John D. Michel is saying to Aurea and saying to Korea, stay and keep doing your job. Now, there must be a reason why somebody wants these bylaws, after they were shouted down a couple of years ago, brought back. And so that's number 2. If you don't agree with these ideas that are being proposed, it's going to be decided by the people in attendance at the October 29th meeting. And if you don't go, you can give 1 proxy to 1 person, but we've already gone by the deadline for registering the proxy, so forget that. You got to go. And you got to sit there from 9 o'clock until probably when they get around to it's going to be 11:30. Yeah, it was going to be entertainment before that. And you decide. Listen to the people who are speaking in favor, and listen to the people who are speaking against the modernization, shrinkage. I call it shrinkage because it reminds me of that Seinfeld episode where George in the ocean, everything's funny. And if you don't know that, it doesn't make any sense. Forget I said that. Anyway, so shrinkage of the board, more members growing every year, fewer representatives for you, half the regional representation, outside directors coming in, and not vote for the top guy or the top girl for the next year as president-elect. So if you oppose any one of those ideas, and you don't want them to be bylaws, which are very hard to change. Very hard to change. There's a process, but you try and get it changed. Go to the meeting on October 29th. And it's out on Dixon Rd by the airport. It's going to take an hour to get there. And they're going to have breakfast. Aim for 8:30. You can pre-register on the TREB. You just click, and now you can just go in at the time. But they will also want to know how many people are going to be there, because they're going to get you a fabulous box lunch at the end. And there's also a small trade show. It's like a miniature Realtor Quest. It's definitely worth going. And if you've never been before, go a bit early, and you get a package. And then there's going to be a red card and a green card. And you're going to get a copy of the financial statements that you can look over, and the minutes of the last meeting, agenda for the day. Now, those have already been published on the TREB. Now, you got to print them out, but they'll give you another copy. And if you think of it, there is a link to the bylaws. You might want to look at the bylaws of why in the world didn't they follow that you must add a name to fill out the full slate? Why did they defy that bylaw? Nobody said anything about it. And is it a good idea for the committee service? And is this term limit thing really a good idea? I'm going to bring that up as new business. So 3 issues. Did you know about any of this stuff? Oh, by the way, they're changing the name of the Toronto Real Estate Board. It's already done. Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. So it's adding an R. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the name, but that's what it is. And if you support, then you want to be there to make sure it's voted on. And if you don't support, then you're going to double want to be there to make sure that it's not passed. And so go there, listen, go there, vote. I took hours preparing the set for this broadcast, and I hope you enjoyed it. So as we say in the business, see you later, alligator.